Curtain up, theater people, and welcome to your Program Is Your Ticket's new Vodcast version of our show. This is our fourth show, and I can't believe we're already on show number 4. And I think, for those of you who are fans of the podcast, I think this is our 83rd or 84th show of the podcast. And just so you know, if you're watching the show and you want to maybe recommend it to someone, but they do audio all the time, the podcast will still be available. We're just taking the audio from this show and putting it on there and engineering it as such. My name is Sean Chandler, and I will be your host. Along with me is my engineer, my producer, and most importantly, my husband, David Leeper.
I love that I get called the engineer. It sounds so fucking official.
Or like you're in Miss Saigon.
I'm in Miss Saigon, exactly. Engineer. I'm sorry, I won't sing. Every one of these, I seem to break into some Broadway tune. It's sad, and I don't sing, but anyway.
That happens like 30 times a day anyways.
Well, yeah, in the privacy of our home.
Right? Well, today's show, we'll let me get this back on the rails here. Today's show features the cast and creative team of a sensational new musical called Painted Alice, and it's an immersive original musical production by William Donnelly and Michael Mahler, and it's playing here, yes, I said here, at the Plaxall Gallery in Long Island City. We have taken the show on the road. Now, for those of you who the Plaxall Gallery might sound familiar if you're fans of the show, it's because we've done a podcast interview here. And David, what's the reason for that?
I a question. We're going to talk about Stupid Fucking Bird, right?
Right, yes,
so
of course.
I had the pleasure of doing Stupid Fucking Bird here with Strip Scripts and Tana Siwa, who is here, which you'll meet in a moment, at this awesome gallery. It's a great space for theatrical experiences.
Here we go. Hi, cast and crew of Painted Alice, and welcome to Your Program Is Your Ticket.
Hello.
It's so great to have you here. There are 6 of you. Wow. And you all look so good. You're so, for this being our first show that we're taking on the road, look at this wonderful assemblage of people that we have here. Also nice, attractive, smart, talented. It's just emanating from you. It's wonderful. Let's start by having you all introduce yourselves and telling us your function within Painted Alice. Okay, and we'll start with Tana, who is up on the upper left-hand corner.
I'm Tana Sirois. I'm the Performing Arts Director here at the Plaxall Gallery. And this is the first show that LIC-A, who runs the space, that we are producing in association with Craig. And I'm also playing Alice, so I'm co-producing as well.
You said LIC-A is the Long Island City Artists, right? Okay, you did say that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Just want to make sure. Okay. Neil?
Yeah, I'm Neil, and I am one of the actors in this fantastic ensemble that gets to bring this world to life.
Groovy?
I'm Jen Rapp, and I'm the director-choreographer.
Awesome. We'll swing down to Greg.
Hi, I'm Greg Schoffert, and I'm the co-producer.
Cool.
I'm Molly Kelleher, and I'm an actor.
I'm Connor, and I am the music director.
Okay, groovy. Excellent. Okay, Tana, once again, comes to you. Tell us about Painted Alice, the musical.
Painted Alice, the musical. It's a new play. This is the first time that it will have been fully staged in New York. And it's really a story about the struggle between dedication to your artistic career and your love life, and balancing the things that are important to you on a personal level. So I think one of the reasons why we're so excited to do this at the gallery, being primarily a visual arts organization, this piece follows the story of Alice, who's a painter. She distances herself from her partner. She's trying to do this commission, but she's facing artist block, and she's really uninspired, and she ends up falling through her canvas and then goes into this art world-inspired wonderland. So it's a spin-off of Alice in Wonderland, but it really speaks to the struggles that I think all artists of different mediums face trying to balance their careers and their personal relationships.
Great. Now, talk about the fact that it's immersive, and what does that mean here?
Well, a large part of the show is set in an art gallery. So when Greg brought the script to us, we just thought that this was the perfect venue for it, because you're literally in an art gallery. So that's as site-specific as it gets. And the nature of the piece lends itself really well to an immersive experience with changing perspectives. And as you switch from the real world into this wonderland, it gets really absurd, and it lends itself really well to a more immersive.
Would you describe it as meta?
No, I wouldn't. I don't think
No?
so. I don't know. Do you
don't
think
think it's
so?
too
I
meta.
wouldn't say it's super meta. I mean,
It's just bizarre.
it's
But
bizarre.
not meta.
It's
Quirky.
relatable.
It's quirky.
There's a lot of things that you'll hear as an artist and be like, oh my God, I do live on bread and Sudafed, like, but it's not like meta in a true sense, no.
Okay, all right. Well, I just learned that word and what it means last year, so I thought I try to use it whenever I possibly can. Jen, how did you go about creating your concept and your vision for the show, with it taking place in an art gallery?
It started with the script and the space, really. The script for me is about Alice going on this journey where she meets a bunch of different characters that show her a different perspective on her own life that she needs to see in order to sort of get to where she does at the end, and how does that struggle with finding the work-life balance and being an artist amidst lots of criticism and all the things that artists face that are obstacles to their true authentic self. So it started with the script, and I felt her perspective needed to change, and she went on a journey of change, and so I wanted to do that for the audience. And we were in the gallery. I saw Stupid Fucking Bird, which was great, so congrats on that. And I was really excited about the space. It's untraditional. There's no rules. So I wanted to, we bring chairs in, there isn't traditional seating, so I wanted to move the audience around as much as possible, keep changing the perspective of what they're seeing and how they're viewing the show, so that they can kind of go on that same journey with Alice. Mm-hmm. And the space just kind of really lent itself. So it was kind of just coming to the space and what are all the options and how do I take advantage of them in the best way.
Wow. Now, I want to encourage people to come see this show, for definite sure, especially hearing what you're saying, because I remember when they did Stupid Fucking Bird here, I came in and I interviewed the cast and the crew and the creative team, and they told me that they were doing Act 2 in the kitchen. And I was like, what? That tiny little kitchen over there? And it worked. I think that there's just a charm about this location that allows that to happen here. It's I don't know, do you remember that act when you saw it?
I totally remember it vividly, because I was with my friends in that kitchen, and during Act 2, mouse ran under my seat,
Oh,
so it was incredibly immersive and very inspired. So it was a unique theatrical experience, I will say. We don't put people in the kitchen in this one, but we do move them around a lot. We take advantage of the space. I don't think you can walk into a show in an art gallery and expect it to be traditional or normal. So I think people come sort of really game for an adventure.
There's a lot of freedom in that too, in what we choose to program in the space. Right?
Sure.
I mean, and I think this space does attract a lot of artists and a lot of people who don't want to rent a black box in Manhattan and put up a show in Proscenium. They want to do something that's quirky and different, and it's been cool to see all the different shows that come in and out of here.
And it's really fantastic because Norma curated the space around the show. So she read the show and she got submissions for pieces. You'll see the artwork around, but it's all kind of Alice in Wonderland meets Painted Alice themed pieces of work. So as you walk around the space, they inform the script and the script informs them. And so the whole experience sort of feels like of a whole. So we're seeing art from all these sort of amazing different artists that is themed to our show. And I thought that was really unique and special. And she did a great job curating it.
And it also has a great title for the exhibition. Tana?
It's Drink Me, Taste Me, an exhibition of curious things.
I love it.
Well, there's a sensory element as well, so there's a lot of curated smells, and there's a chocolate tasting we're doing before the show for a VIP event, and perfumes that have been created, a hookah
Brownies.
lounge.
Oh.
And the cast is Scratch and Sniff.
That's true.
I couldn't help it.
That's true. It's part of the audition process.
Yeah.
Well, I noticed that there were a lot of food items around when I was looking at the exhibition. So that really explains a lot of, okay, that's great.
You have to feed actors, otherwise they won't show up.
This is true. This is very true. Now speaking of the casting of the show, members of the creative team, what types of qualities were you looking for in casting the show to convey such a unique vision? What were you looking for? What did they need?
For me, it was most about inventiveness. So I wanted people that were going to play the game with me. So I threw a lot at them in the auditions. I asked them to do kind of very bizarre, wild, weird things. And the people that jumped in and weren't afraid of it and made big choices were the ones that I wanted to be in the room with, because I knew the show wasn't going to be something that relied on tech heavily, but it was going to be about the creative minds in the space and how we collaborated together. And I'm a big person that likes to collaborate with the other artists in the space. So it was really the people that would play the game with me.
Excellent.
There's
Connor?
a degree of flexibility too. I mean, Mike Mahler lives in sort of a similar echelon as like Alan Menken, in that he writes these really interesting genre songs that live like very heavily in 60s rock or in jazz or something. So every performer, because they wear so many hats over the course of the show, has to sing in a number of musical styles and be really comfortable adding a thick level of characterization. So people who could do a lot of things juggle a lot of bits.
Wow, that's great. And now, are there, you said there's, talk about the various song styles that you actually have within the show.
Yeah, when we're in the real world, it lives in a very sort of contemporary music theater style, but once we get to the other side of the canvas, everything is sort of a distorted version of what Alice knows. So she has, one of her original paintings singing an angry rock song at her, or, these big, boisterous ballads that are kind of over the top. I mean, it lives in a number of different places musically. It goes all over the place.
Now, did the writers write that into the script, was it a collaborative effort to?
They wrote it. I mean, definitely, all of it was sort of there. The thing I appreciated the most was that this script and this score really work. Like, they weren't with us, but they're going to see the show, and I feel like all of the material really worked. I wasn't struggling to find out how to make this section work or how this path worked, and they threw a lot at it, because she meets the characters she meets are so different and varied, and the musical stylings sort of really reflect all of sort of the outrageous creatures that she meets. So,
And the show started as a play. It was a play back in 2003 when I first met Bill Donnelly. And we did a small production in Washington, D.C., and then it was licensed and done in Kansas City, and small. And then basically it sat on the shelf for about 6 years, maybe. And Bill had come to me and said, his wife actually said, I think it should be a musical. And I said, yeah, right, Bill, da-da-da-da-da. And then I thought about it a while, and I said, these characters, they're so wild that they could sing. There's no reason they couldn't sing. So, because I thought of Wicked and stuff like that, I've been working on that. And so I told Bill if I could find the right composer to match up with him, then we'll see if it could be a musical. So I knew Michael Mahler from Northwestern, who's one of the most incredible talents. He's probably the hottest composer in Chicago and has been for several years, and I've worked with him on other shows. And Michael was doing a concert at Ars Nova, and I talked Bill into driving down from Boston, where he lives, to meet him. He brought his mother in the car because she'd only been to New York City once on her honeymoon. They spent a day on the bus, believe it or not. So we had breakfast at the Renaissance Diner on 9th Avenue. If anybody remembers the Renaissance Diner.
I do.
I think I remember the Renaissance, but not the Renaissance Diner.
And I no longer spent 5 minutes in the booth with them, and I knew it was the perfect match. They connected musically. They were talking about music in groups that I had no idea what they were talking about, but I knew that this was a great match. And so we told Michael to go away, and he wrote like 4 songs, I believe, and played them for us. And I said, you know what, you're definitely on the right track, keep going. And then I got them this tiny little writer's workshop in Oregon for about 4 days, which turned out to be about 3.5 days, where they got to go into their own living quarters on this ranch.
Right.
And they would work, and we would feed them, and they would work, and they would work. And in like 3 days, they wrote 7 songs. So we had 13 songs then. And we took a while, several years. We took it to Northwestern University, where they have a program called the American Musical Theater Program, AMTP, and I know Connor's worked with there before. And a good friend of mine, one of my best friends is David Bellin. He's the musical theater. He's the head of the musical theater department at Northwestern. So we did it at AMTP with students. This would have been 2011, I believe, possibly even earlier than that. So we got to basically rehearse with them for evenings of 10 days and do like a 29-hour reading, which would have been called in Broadway.
Right.
And then again, it sat around, and my wife happens to be a painter who paints at this. I met Tana, I met Edjo, who runs the space, and it was like, man, this show needs to be done, this musical needs to be done. It takes place in an art gallery. This is the perfect place to do it. So, and they agreed.
Wow, talk about the stars aligning, huh? And what a great opportunity to provide to those writers.
It's never been seen. The show has never been on its feet. This will be the virgin time that they do it on Friday in front of an audience.
Wow.
No pressure.
No pressure. I mean, what I wanted to say that obviously it's very definitely a nice gift to have this show here. Trust me, I know that. What a gift for you to give the writers that weekend to develop those 7 songs. I mean, often they're called retreats, and you have to apply for them. And trust me, I've been there. But it's very rare that we get concentrated time to just sit there and crank out the material without the distraction. So I think that's, as a writer, mad respect for that. That's awesome. Okay, Molly and Neil, as 2 of the actors who were put through the rigorous audition process, tell us a little bit about what that was like.
You want to start?
Sure, I'll fire away. Greg had sent me the material because we had just worked together on another Michael Mahler show, actually. So I was really excited to, get back into working with his music and his scripts. And I had looked at it and thought, man, this stuff is insane. So I guess I just have to come in and make gargantuan choices. And one of the things in the script is the voices in Alice's head. And so I remember coming in and being like, well, it's this kind of a soothing, self-betterment tape. So I was really in that mode. And I felt like I just nailed the smooth voiceover. And the note that I got from her was, short. So could you maybe do it like a football coach who's roid raging at halftime?
Oh my gosh.
And
That's
and
great.
I mean, I had come in like, you are connected and confident in yourself. And it turned to like, and I was like yelling, screaming around the room. And she was like, great, now if we could go ahead and sing your 2 songs, and one is like this 2-octave range of like vaudevillian doing drugs and going insane. And the other one is like indie folk rock about what it's like to be a tortured artist that really just knows about the darkness and depth.
While keeping the aggressive football player personality?
So I had to bring that back every now and then.
Dial that back, okay.
Yeah. Actually, I just kind of slipped into it naturally in rehearsals now. They don't really know who I am. They just know a roid-rated
I think
football.
I tapped into is like the core of him. Of
Yeah. She spoke to my heart,
Like
the
a
way
good
few
director
directors
will.
do.
Yeah.
What about you, Molly?
Same. I mean, literally same, right? I did that too, and I'm a yoga teacher, so my was like, yes, here we are, we're ready, we're gonna meditate. And then she goes, okay, so you're a sergeant in the army, you're pissed off, let's see it. Okay, now do it like a cheerleader. Like, it was really fun, actually. I love auditions like that, where you get to just use the toolbox and actually feel like, I'm not going to do it right. Like, I don't have to do it right. I'm just going to play. And that's what this entire rehearsal process has felt like. Like, we're just going to play. We're just going to see what this feels like, see what that feels like, and then we'll lock things in and put them together. So the collaboration in the play has been kind of the main themes of at least my side of the story, putting this whole story together.
It sounds like from the sort of the phantasmagorical nature of the piece that you would really need to do a lot of that. You know, you have to push it out, and I think that's quite smart. Not that you need my validation, but to make sure that you have performers who can do that, because a lot of performers they're reserved and they won't go there. They want to have a very, very regimented sort of performance, and yeah.
Yeah, you have to see who can jump out of their comfort zone
Right.
and like celebrate that and make this choice and then do something totally opposite, and whether they just kind of go with it. And it's really just lack of fear. Who's fearless? Fearless and playful. I think that's the biggest key when you're doing comedy, when you're doing a musical, when you're doing a show with sort of bizarre characters, but kind of in any show you want to have people that just have a lot of different colors in their Crayola box, right? And they aren't afraid to sort of mix and match them and break them apart and put them together again. So
Excellent. Now, actors, what about your take on the musical side of the audition? I mean, I know that you had to sing like a very roided out football player, but Molly, what about you? What was your music audition like with Connor?
How many songs did I do? A couple. I think the first song I did was like that. It's like a folky song. I don't want to give too much away. A lovely folky song that someone sings in the show. And then I think the next one was the rock song. Let's say that's what happened. So yeah, I mean, vocally it's been a little bit all over the place, which is fun. You know,
Right.
you get to. It's like, okay, let's play. Let's see what that belt has in store today, and then also go back to like legit musical theater within it. So I mean, for me as a singer, I love that. I love being able to mix and match and play around.
Sure.
Molly plays like 8 different
I
characters.
play 7
in the
characters
show.
in the
Yeah,
show.
a lot.
So
She's
I don't
really
get
good
bored.
at that. I've seen her do that. She's quite good at that. Did you have a certain place that you wanted to take them to, Connor, musically? Did you want to test them just as much as Jen?
Yeah, I mean, there's sort of the technical limits of like some of these songs are quite rangy. The one that we, as Neil sort of said, is like a huge 2-octave song, and it requires a great deal of technical proficiency. So you sort of, when you come up with an audition cut, you sort of throw them the hardest bit to see what they can do with it.
Mm-hmm.
But on top of that, when we were sort of, just because there are so many characters in the show, I try to sort of pick the 3 most out there I could find in terms of musical style and characterization for each gender.
Wow.
And gave them that just so it would help us see their range, not only as from characters, but in terms of what they could do with their voice.
Wow. It's very, very smart casting. Sounds like the auditions were longer than normal, longer than usual.
One day of auditions, one day of callbacks.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, because
Individually.
You're exactly. I've written musicals before, and usually we'd bring people in, and it's like maybe 8-10 minutes of them singing the song that we asked them to sing, or one of their own songs from their book. But this sounds like you kind of, if you like the person, or they were contributing well to the tone of the project, that you sort of kept them there and put them through the paces and. And it doesn't.
It was pretty rapid fire. I'd say everybody had like, gosh.
10, 15.
Yeah, I guess if you weren't inventive, it was really short.
Okay.
So it was quite quick. And then if you were, it went a bit longer. But it was kind of the quicker I could throw things at people and see if they responded immediately was kind of a part of the gameplay. So yeah, I don't think anything was too long. Although you did have a lot of songs to learn to sing, and they did great with them.
Wow. I love hearing about stuff like that, like what happens in other people's audition rooms and how they go about it. I think it has to form itself to the type of project that they're auditioning for. So good, and that's excellent thinking. Tell us about your technical team, like your lighting people, your sound people, your musicians. Talk about them.
Well, Connor is all of our musicians.
Oh, okay, all right.
Sharp orchestra right here.
He actually does quite a lot with it too.
When I went to school in Chicago and I did some Chicago theater there, and there's sort of an army of one mentality, especially amongst sort of storefront theater. So I was used to that, but especially for this, because there is so much genre stuff and I didn't have a band, I ended up producing and arranging a lot of tracks that play along in the show. So as they were alluding to, sort of this self-tape, yoga sort of thing going on. We have this very sort of soothing, like what you would hear in a massage parlor was sort of the thing on that. And some of the rock songs have backing songs of like bass and drums going on that I'm going to with Click, just so that way we can fill the space with the sound and stakes that it needs while it's still just me.
So like literally a one-man band.
Yeah.
That's That's great. I've produced a musical written a musical that was produced in Chicago, so I totally get it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that you're asked to do there where you're it. You're it, and most of the time for me it's been somebody playing a piano. But so you're using various other machines like
so I have just pre-recorded tracks that I use. I'm a guitarist primarily, but I also play piano, so I sort of switch between both throughout the show, and sometimes let the tracks handle themselves. And a shout out to Ben, who is our sound designer, who none of this would be possible without him. He made the systems work and made everything balance and made sure that you can always hear the actors, which was always, as soon as you put amplified sound in something like a gallery that's this big and this live, it becomes a problem. So he was an expert at dealing with all of those problems.
Yeah, and I have to butt in. I reached out to Michael Mahler, who's a buddy of mine in Chicago, and said, I need a musical director who plays a piano, but it'd be great if he could play the guitar. And he immediately answered, you got to speak to Connor Keelan.
Wow.
And we had to twist his arm a little bit because he works a lot, but we fit it into the slot, and he's the guy.
Excellent. Wow, that's very, very cool.
And I want to just say on the design front, my really good friend of mine and colleague, Jessica Thonen, was our costume and scenic designer. And she teaches at the college at St. Pete's, so she came up to do that. Ben Sulky was our sound designer, who did an amazing job. And Naftali Wayne was our lighting designer, who came in and programmed the show in like 5 hours. And it was amazing.
5 hour programming the show in 5 hours?
He programmed the show in 5 hours. Yes, I think spend one of our tech sessions just like stringing the lights up and getting them all wired so that they worked in this space. I think it's more lights than they've ever seen in this space. And then he programmed the whole thing in 5 hours. It was a feat.
Tech is always a big challenge in a space like this. You know, you can have a great show, but if you have a little bit of support goes a long way. But even getting a little bit of support here can be hard because it's so massive. You know, you're moving around the space. We're always very low budget. We don't have the equipment. We don't have a rig. So for every show, we're really like hanging each individual light. So we really, really appreciate our tech teams here because it's a tall order, and they did a really great job.
It's a challenge.
And Eric, one of the artists, donated a bunch of his own lights that he uses for his art projects that we're using in our show, and he came and helped us wire everything, and it's kind of a collaborative joint effort amongst artists and all of the team, and then people that are just fans of the gallery that work here and want to support things that happen here.
And a lot of our props even as well, like the artist table we're using in the show is one of our resident artists who paints here, and I called her and asked her if I could please use it as a prop because it's so perfect. And you know, this is a really cool show for LIC-A to be as its first show that we're producing like as an organization, because it's incorporating so many artists. We're having one of our artists come and sketch the show tonight, and some of the work will be up in the exhibition. And
no way, really?
Yeah,
wow, that's like
it's just we've really tried to bring people in from all the different artistic mediums and create a really collaborative piece of art. And it's, you know, people love it. Even the people that have come into the space for the first time, they've kind of hung out after rehearsals. And you know, we have this waterfront space out back. You can see the Manhattan skyline, and it's
very
special.
cool.
Like it feels very special. And it's nice to be able to provide that for a bunch of
And
different
they
artists
also
and have a whole
do,
family.
Thursday nights they do a drink and draw here with a live model. And it draws lots of people.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's really cool that you're like having someone come in and sketch off of your, like one of your tech, it's like your final tech rehearsal.
Yeah.
And that's going to be part of the show. And
we'll incorporate it in.
That's really neat. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of come from like a say yes mentality here, right? And trying to, you know, bring on as many ideas as we can. And that's one of the reasons why I love working with Jen so much from the beginning. I feel like we've been on the same page about that. It's like, oh, there's a cool idea. Do you want to try it? Yeah, let's try it.
And Enjo, the artistic director, has been fantastic. I had this idea for one of these frames that fly in. And I was like, in my perfect world, they would fly in and then be able to fly out. And I just like, his wheels start turning. He's like, I can do that. And like, he made it happen. He made all these frames fly in and out, these pulley systems, and I mean, he's helped us a lot too, like just with the mechanics of making the space a show.
Wow, that's great. So the moral of that is to just ask.
Yeah.
Don't push, just ask, and let your team, let the genius of them shine through.
And always give pizza and beer.
Pizza and beer.
Yeah, you know,
There's the
helpful.
food again, Greg. Of course, absolutely.
We didn't bring food, but we did bring T-shirts.
We did. We,
Wow.
we brought
I have
T-shirts.
rocket launch T-shirts. I forgot.
Excited.
We have swag at Your Program Is Your Ticket. We usually bring in coffee mugs, right?
Yeah,
But
we
that's
didn't
if we
have
have
a
a
table,
table.
so there was no.
Yeah, and they're very self-serving.
If
They're
you
very
really want one, I
self-promoting.
can get you one. I can hook you up with a. Your program is your
Got a guy.
ticket.
You know someone.
As I said, they're self-serving for us because, of course, they say your program is your ticket right there for everyone to see. So, always be connecting. Always be, pimping yourself out. Sorry, that was a horrible thing to say. What do you hope that audiences take away from Painted Alice? Themes, messages.
What do you think, Neil?
Earlier, we were having a slightly facetious discussion about being Painted Alice, raw and vulnerable. Not at all. Not at all we're going for, but I had to give Jen a look on that one. It was really interesting when Tana was talking right at the beginning about how I think there's so many messages here that get very specific to what it is to be an artist. I actually think there is a very core message that is specific to anyone who is really passionately pursuing something that they want, and that is how do you do that and still live a balanced life and not become obsessed and so wrapped up in your passion and what you want to do that you leave behind the people around you that matter and yourself. How do you leave space for softness and love and actually sharing the thing that you're pouring your heart and soul into?
And your life feeds your art, feeds your life, feeds your art,
feeds your
feeds,
art.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I think they're going to have an unexpected experience, and that's what I hope they leave. I don't think the show is predictable in any way, and I don't think the way we present the show is predictable in any way. So I think that hopefully they walk out of the show going, I have definitely never seen something quite like that. And they may love it or they may hate it, but it will definitely feel unique, I think.
Wow, that's great. Anyone else want to weigh in on that?
I just hope they have fun and enjoy. I mean, it's really fun. I keep saying it's like magical realism. It's very similar to magical realism. There is that. This is so close to reality, but if we could just see the world through a different lens, and I think that makes me think anyway about life. But I hope that the whole idea of coming to the theater, seeing art, is to experience something and walk away with maybe thoughts, but also just joy, right?
Sure.
There's nothing more joyful than seeing and being part of art, and especially a piece like this where the audience is really part of the show, whether they know it or not. They are to us.
They do now.
I don't think the show really stands on a soapbox. I think it has so many wonderful messages for artists, for people who aren't artists, but it's baked into just a really entertaining, high energy piece in sort of a space that it might come to you the next day where you're like, oh man, I've really still been thinking about that one thing that happened. The actor was right here. I think there are so many layers of entertainment that are baked on top of it that the pill that we're slipping you about what the moral is hidden and is given to you in a way that is really nice.
As it should be.
Yeah.
Right, absolutely. Or, if they didn't catch it all the first time, they can come back and see the show, right? And then come back again and just peel back those layers. I think that good theater entertains, educates, and edifies people. And it sounds like this project covers all of those bases from what I've heard from you.
Yeah, I think
throughout the interview.
people will leave and argue about what it meant and all that with their friends. It's something engaging, and they'll have different opinions, and I think that's what we want to do. We want to leave them with thoughts of, let's figure out what they do. We don't want to answer every question. Let's let them answer the questions and argue about it.
Wow, excellent. Well, on that note, we're going to go ahead and wrap up. So I want to thank you so much for being on Your Program Is Your Ticket, cast and creative team of Painted Alice. I wish you many, many broken legs, and I just hope that everything goes really smoothly and wonderfully, and you start, and as your production goes on and your performances go on, you find even more and more and more because it sounds like, Jen, you've opened them up for that and given them permission to do that. And that's really nice. Right, actors?
Absolutely.
And we run April 19th to the 28th.
Oh,
just
we're
so
gonna
you know.
Good
we're gonna be
luck.
putting all of that information on screen,
Excellent.
and it will be up towards the end of the show. And that way, people, whatever they're listening or viewing devices, they can just freeze it, and there it is.
Great.
And we'll also put it on all your social media as well. Okay. Well, folks, the proverbial 11 o'clock number has been sung and the bows have been taken, so it's time to lower the curtain. You can find more episodes of Your Program Is Your Ticket on YouTube. We're on YouTube. That's where you get the vodcast, and that will be connected through social media. You can just search Your Program Is Your Ticket, and please go ahead and subscribe. As everyone knows who does social media, that's super, super helpful. We're also on Facebook at facebook.com, Your Program Is Your Ticket. On Twitter at Program Ticket, just the two words. The website is yourprogramisyourticket.com. How great is that? And again, for fans of the podcast, please don't fret. The audio of the show will be up, or so that you can listen to it if you're on the subway or driving or however you listen to your podcasts. And again, it is on iTunes and SoundCloud, so you can connect on whatever phone you're on or device you're on. Folks, take a little time to see a show this week, and don't forget to give a smaller show some love. There's lots of theater gems out there. Until our next show, good night, theater people, and curtain.